So, a very good afternoon. My name is Anusha Vaidyanathan. I'm Director of Product Management, focused on security, application visibility, and a bunch of other things for the SD-WAN. So, without further ado, let's talk about automation of security policies. As Wayne says, network segmentation has been around 20, 30 years, but it's all CLI driven, done on a site-to-site basis. What we have in the Silver Peak Edge Connect is not just multi-site SD-WAN networks. We also have centrally orchestrated security policies. So a user does not have to enter rows and rows of policy rules on a site-by-site basis. Instead, they will use our matrix policy visualization for configuring security policy rules for the entire network at just one time. Damon talked about end-to-end segmentation. Well, traditionally, in firewalls, we have the trust and the untrust zone, but that's not the only thing when it comes to SD-WAN, because SD-WAN has the concept of the LAN, the WAN, and data center and cloud apps. So what we've tried to do is stitch it all together. We have LAN segments talking with specific policies as to how they talk to WAN overlay segments, and then how they interact with the data center segments. Data center as well as the cloud segments. So this is exactly my demo setup, and I will go through this in the matrix. We'll drill down into the details. But to give you an idea, so this is the end-to-end segmentation that is built in as part of our security policies. And then the matrix itself is it's real, it's clickable. On one side, we have the from zones, and then on the other side, we have the to zones. And then when you click on the cell, you can actually define the applications, whether it's allowed or denied. I will go through the details of the policy itself, and we can drill down into it in the demo. But yeah, this policy matrix, like I said, is not just for on a per site basis. Rather, it is applied to the entire SD-WAN network, whether you have 10 sites, 100 sites, or 1,000 sites. So that's the matrix. So that's a bit of what we do. And Damon talked about all our SD-WAN features, the fact that we do per packet load balancing for application performance and availability. So along with all the SD-WAN capability, what we also do is flow-based security policy lookup, right? And like Damon talked about, we do that on the first packet. We have first packet IQ to determine the application. The nice thing is that this is all integrated, and which is why I call it best of both worlds in action. It's a homogeneous solution built into the Edge Connect product line, which is the SD-WAN device. Because it's fully integrated, there is no added latency in the packet path. So all our datasheet numbers that we publish for the Edge Connect are with all security policies, firewall features turned on, and it is with full encryption with AES 256-bit encryption. So that's why I call it best of both worlds in action, because it's flow-based policy lookup as well as packet-based load sharing. So this is a bit of how we do it, and why does it matter? In Wayne's world, we had a customer that had hundreds and hundreds of access lists and rules, and they had more than 10 people managing their 1,200 site network. It takes weeks and months to even make any configuration changes. And of course, we know that it may not even be accurate, and there may be holes because it is still done manually on a per site basis. If they use Silver Peak SD-WAN, one of our SEs just took that configuration, the real world customer config, and it just took him 10 minutes to put that in our security policy matrix, define the rules, define the policies that go, what was allowed and denied. The end result is that the functionality was still preserved. All the security policies were retained, but it was automatically derived through our orchestrator and through the security policy matrix. And the main thing was that it just took him 10 minutes to do the policy.
May I ask a question? So a few slides earlier, I may have misheard or misread something, but you talked about segmentation, but specifically with the LAN, the local network.
Yep.
Are you talking about what we would normally do with VRFs and then the integration with the WAN edge? Is that what you mean? Okay.
So we would call it zones.
Okay.
It's still network segments in terms of zones and how they are segmented, and it is also VRF aware. We also have VRF
So we
aware.
would be using the Silver Peak appliance as a zone-based firewall.
Yes, it is. Yeah, it is primarily a zone-based firewall.
Okay.
That's right. Yeah.
Perfect, thanks.
Well, how does the zone match up with the physical network then? Do you classify VLANs on
Yes, we can
interfaces?
classify VLANs.
Interfaces or VLANs?
That's right. Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. So the benefits, front and center of it is the centralized orchestration automation that not only gives you the ease of configuration, but also consistent policy enforcement, whether it's, like I said, 10 sites or 1,000 sites. End-to-end segmentation, we'll see how that works in the demo. Again, it guarantees threat containment, security, and compliance because the segmentation exists in the LAN, in the WAN, as well as in your data center. Yeah, we talked about best of both worlds and how we have no performance impact as we do all this. Yes, question.
So, do I have that flexibility? Like, okay, for this kind of application, I want per packet load balancing, and another application I want per flow load balancing. Can I do that?
The policy lookup is flow-based, right? Because
I'm saying for the forwarding, not for the policy. Per packet load balancing and per flow. So for voice traffic, maybe I don't want to do per packet load balancing because it will increase the latency and jitter because you have different latency characteristics on the different links, LTE and the fixed broadband and the MPLS, etc. So can I have that flexibility? That's I'm wondering.
yeah, so within the SD-WAN fabric, the way applications are sent, it is all per packet load balancing. So your voice application would still undergo per packet load balancing as we send it between our Silver Peak Edge Connect devices. But the only thing that is different is that the policy lookup is flow-based. Okay. Though the actual way in which the packets are sent, whether it's voice or any other application in the SD-WAN fabric, it's all per packet. So you can't choose the flow or packet for traffic that is being sent into the fabric. So that leaves us with what customers tell us. They just want Silver Peak as a unified platform, as the only device in their branch edge. There is no need for an additional branch firewall just for access security or segmentation. So with that, let me jump right into the demo. So this is our Unity orchestrator. I have a network of 30 appliances here. So this is our front and center, the dashboard. We have a health map, topology that depicts who's talking to whom, some new charts that tell you how the traffic is flowing. So for the first thing, let's look at the security policy. So this is the matrix. And like I said, I define all my from zones. I have my corporate branch and guest Wi-Fi, which are the LAN segments or LAN zones. And the policy says that from my corporate branch, if I'm sending corporate traffic, again, that's defined through my corporate applications, I will send that over the corporate WAN. And I can send my business critical SaaS applications, again, that choice is defined in that particular access list. That would go with the business critical overlay, only if it originates from the corporate branch. And I allow internet traffic, internet browsing for my corporate users. For my guest Wi-Fi users at a branch, all that I allow is just internet traffic. I don't allow access to them to the corporate apps. So this is a simple policy that is set up between branches and data center and also with the cloud. In terms of the policy itself, so these are my corporate apps. I've just put some data center apps. And of interest, what I will be showing is the business critical apps. So we have a way to define applications, or we can define application groups. And in this case, I have my sanctioned apps that go into the business critical overlay. So this is our groups interface. I think you want to know about how we do application definitions and how we configure groups and apps. So this is a user-defined application group, for instance, that is sanctioned by my IT. And in this case, I have put all these apps that are sanctioned by IT. That's Box, Dropbox, Office 365, Salesforce, and so on. So I want this to go into my business critical overlay and have policies defined for that. So again, this is all customizable. We provide a set of groups of the product, but you can tune it to what you need in your network and how you want your apps to behave. So I have my sanctioned apps. So and all of that, I have defined them in access lists, and I have defined the policies. So what I'll do now is to illustrate the automation of how easy it is to add an application to the security policy and how quickly you can do that in a matter of minutes. So to prove that, I'm going to give an example that in Asia offices, my IT admin has chosen to subscribe to Zoom, which is a new app. But maybe my Europe offices and North America don't want that application to go into the business critical overlay. So with that, all we have to do is add to the business critical access list. I have the app defined, and all we have to do is simply apply the template to the groups of sites. So right now, these sites don't have Zoom added to them. So they just have the sanctioned apps. They don't have Zoom added yet. So what I'm going to do is just apply Zoom to all my Asia sites. So while this is happening, I just want to bring about the fact that this is the orchestration in the works. As we apply new configuration or new policies to groups of devices, this is the work that is happening in the background. This is the automation and orchestration that is happening in the background. And we showed the progress of that through our orchestration ETA. In this case, it happened pretty quickly because it was just addition of one app to my 6 Asia sites. So it did finish pretty quickly. And to verify that, if I go back to my access lists, I can see that Zoom is added to all my Asia apps, Asia sites, and Zoom is not added to, it's not added to other sites. So that's how easy it is to add to security policies, and that will be picked up by that matrix, and it will go through, it will be part of the rule set. So any questions before we move on to the next use case? So the next use case I have is the automation or service chaining to third-party security vendors. So what we've added is a whole new tab that says third-party service orchestration, and in that today I'm going to be talking about our service chaining with Zscaler. We have a bunch of other security partners that we have full integrations with. They are available on our Technology Alliances website. So we have partnerships with Palo Alto Global Protect, Checkpoint, ForcePoint, McAfee Cloud, Semantic Web Gateway, and so on. So today I'll be demonstrating the automation with Zscaler. Again, service chaining does not just mean routing, or it just does not mean building tunnels, right? Service chaining to us means complete orchestration and automation and making it easy for the user. So this automation is not just script based, it's built into the product, which means that all that a user has to do to provision Zscaler in say 30 sites or 100 sites is they have to just set up their subscription, and this is done one time. All they have to say is give their Zscaler cloud name and the domain, the credentials that they use. And Silver Peak is a registered partner with Zscaler, so we get a partner key. So this is just the one-time setup that a user has to do. And then everything else, all the orchestration and automation is happening under the covers. For instance, this seemingly simple looking tab has a lot going on in the background. It means that, if my San Jose office has, say, only one internet link, and my Atlanta office, say, has internet and internet, two internet links, or some offices may have an LTE backup. So all I have to do is specify the order in which I use my circuits, and this can be done, globally for the entire network, and we'll use the circuits in that order. And the main thing that happens under the covers is, again, IP addresses are so different, right? The local IP addresses that each appliance uses to build tunnels to Zscaler is different, and the remote IP addresses are also different. For instance, if I have to do this all manually, I'll have to go to the Zscaler cloud, their data center list, see what IPs are listed. I have to see, okay, I'm in San Francisco, then I have to go and look at the nearest San Francisco's host name and take the IP address, or put the host name in the tunnel endpoint. So I have to do this, repeat this for all the tens of hundreds of sites, and this varies per site. So this is what is completely orchestrated and automated when you just choose this thing here.
So I can send asymmetric traffic. So from point A to point B over internet, and B to A from MPLS, assuming both has internet and MPLS. I can do that?
Not to Zscaler, because again,
when there is firewall in between, I cannot. But I am assuming, forget about the cloud type, just internet and MPLS. I connect to two sides, okay, over these two links. I'm sending the traffic from A to B over internet link, and receiving traffic now, returning traffic I want to get from the MPLS one. Can I do that?
So when you say A to B, is it A edge connect to?
No, site A to site B.
Site B. Okay, site A to site B. Yes, that.
Internet and return traffic B to A.
Yes.
New York to Chicago, let's say.
Yes.
US, and Chicago to New York.
Okay.
Different link, internet, MPLS, or vice versa.
Yes, so that happens because if it's part of the SD-WAN fabric, it is agnostic to what links are used and in which order, whether it's A to B versus B to A, because we have the packet-based load sharing and all the intelligence to tie the flows together.
We can.
Yeah. So if it is edge connect to edge connect, we can do that. Yes.
Want some in some cases, but yeah, okay.
Yeah. But Zscaler does not like it because they want, of course, again, NATing happens, and again, they also do their own NAT on their side before they send it off to the internet. So they want all the flows to come in on one tunnel.
Sure, yeah.
So yeah, it doesn't make sense for the internet-bound traffic. Yeah. So again, this is the orchestration piece that is built with the service chaining to Zscaler. And yeah, these are my tunnels. Yeah. Again, we take care of all the failover and redundancy, whether whether we have two different Zscaler POPs to connect to, or if we have, say, two circuits, a Comcast and a Verizon, and we do all the load balancing, failure detection. If a circuit goes down, or if a Zscaler POP goes down, we can use multiple tunnels and keep it all seamless. And how does this fit in with our business intent overlays? Damon talked quite a lot about that. So our security policies work in tandem with the business intent overlays, because this was the front and center of the product, the SD-WAN, the heart of SD-WAN policies, and the security policies just kind of fully work well with that. And here is my Zscaler policy that says, okay, guest Wi-Fi traffic, go to the Zscaler cloud. Again, we take care of all the failover behind the scenes. We have active tunnels or multiple circuits going to multiple POPs. So all that happens under the covers. And yeah, my guest Wi-Fi is getting a lower quality of service. I've given it a lower, put it on a different traffic class. And then my default traffic is also going to the Zscaler cloud. add a different traffic class. And these are my business critical traffic is going to go to my going to be backhauled, and so is my corporate data center apps.
Icons are small, right? Can you see? I cannot see.
Yeah, we try to fit because this is everything, right? It's a single pane of glass. You want to fit everything in this one screen. Yeah, you can zoom in. Yeah, this is okay now. Yeah. So that's the Zscaler automation, and then finally. I had a demo on LAN segmentation. So yeah, we have the WAN overlays. We also have the LAN segments, which means that we do behave as a firewall, and the matrix takes care of all enforcing the policies. So in this example, I have a corporate user trying to connect, a corporate branch user trying to connect to a corporate data center app, right? And inadvertently, he's also logged into the guest Wi-Fi network. So let's see what happens. Yes, Silver Peak has detected that traffic has come in from the guest Wi-Fi network because the user was inadvertently logged into the guest Wi-Fi, and the security policies kicked in and they denied it as it rightly is defined by the security policy. Right? Again, yeah, so that's the deny policy. And then finally, so I go ahead and turn off my guest Wi-Fi network, realizing what happened, and I should now be able to connect to my corporate data center app. So in this case, Silver Peak has security policies have detected that the flow is rightly originated from the corporate branch, going into the corporate WAN, and all the way to the corporate data center, and then it has allowed that policy. And so we're now able to access the app. And this is our LAN segmentation in the works. Working alongside our business intent overlays and all the policies that we've defined for SD-WAN.
Another question.
Yeah.
So can I put bandwidth limit per application, even per application per user? Like, okay, scavenger traffic, let's say YouTube, okay, let's say, not business critical, scavenger traffic, shouldn't use more than 5% of bandwidth of the link.
Yes.
Can I do that?
Yes.
Excellent.
So that would be our
per user. Can I do that? Like, okay, scavenger Orhan can use 10%, but Phil shouldn't use more than 5.
That is, I mean, you can say scavenger cannot use more than 5%, and you can do that through our
because
shaper config.
When it's user, like, is it, then another question, is it integrated like with maybe Active Directory, something like that?
Yeah, that is in the works. So that is in a roadmap. So right now it is still, a set of applications that's part of the WAN segment, and then this is applied to the WAN segment policy in the business intent overlay. So this is where you define your traffic classes, and I can do DSCP marking. I can assign a traffic class, and the definition of the traffic class.
Maybe after that I can, right? So CS1 scavenger, then rate limit 5 MB, something. Okay.
Yes. But you would do that, I imagine, per VLAN or per subnet. The subnet where you have all your workstation would be allowed 5% of bandwidth. If you do that per user, that can lead to some issues, right?
Why not?
Why not?
Is it granular like that? But set might be roadmap.
So you can set limits, you can rate limit, you can assign min-max bandwidth.
It is real case, right? So for all the users, maybe just 5% or 1%, but CEO, you cannot put limit.
That's right, yeah.
And let's think about real cases like small, medium business enterprises.
Yeah. So So that's our shaper. What else I had? Yeah, some monitoring and visibility, and this is one of our newest donut charts that gives you the complete visibility into what's happening in your network. So in this case, I can see that my guest Wi-Fi traffic is going to my Zscaler cloud, both inbound and outbound, and my default overlay traffic. Some of it is going to Zscaler cloud and some of it is going direct to net because I don't have Zscaler configured in all my appliances.
Is it showing all the sites?
This is showing all sites. So the selection is made on the left pane, so I'm seeing this for all sites. If I have to just see for the site that has the Zscaler traffic, I know that everything is going to Zscaler because I have configured Zscaler for this. So all my traffic is going from the guest Wi-Fi to the Zscaler cloud and default to the Zscaler cloud. So this is like, the view of the network. Some cool new charts you can flip. You can have different visualizations. You can see how your overlay traffic is going into different transport, or how they're going into different interfaces. And again, we have historical stats as well. So a lot of stuff built into this chart in terms of monitoring itself. So that's all I had. So it's all about the security policy matrix working together with our business intent overlays. We talked about how easy it is to add an application to groups of sites, and that happens in a matter of minutes. We talked about LAN segmentation and how that works alongside WAN segmentation. And true automation when it comes to service chaining to our cloud security providers. So
With
those are the
that
different
service
things.
chaining, is that really what you're limited to, is the ecosystem of partners?
If you need that kind of automation, because there is a lot of native intelligence, right? So that's why it's limited to that partners. But in general, we support any number of tunnels to anybody that does standards-based IPsec. So that is possible today.
Okay, so in theory, anywhere you could terminate a tunnel.
Yes, we could terminate to anyone that does standards-based IPsec. But if you need all this orchestration,
Without the partnership, it's a more manual component.
That's right.
gotta
You
set
have
up
to
yourself
configure.
to help facilitate that.
That's right. You have to configure the tunnels side by side. You have to know what IPs to connect to on your side, what you have to use on the remote side, and so on.
Okay, is there a more simple service chain option where I just send traffic out a port in the assumption that I've plugged in a firewall on the other side and now it's going to have to filter that traffic?
Yeah, so that is just routing, right? So you can just send it out. Yeah, so that's also possible. I mean, we do have integrations with other firewalls that may reside in the branch side. Again, we've done that with how to configure. It's more like best practices. How do you configure the zones?
Yeah.
How do you configure the segments? And how do you connect it? Do you put Silver Peak first? Do you put the firewall first? So we have best practices for all of that.
Okay, basically architecture guides. Right?
Yes, architecture guides. Yes.
So for the traditional VRFs, you are calling segment, I think. Is it correct?
Yeah, so zone-based firewall is our answer to the segmentation itself. But yeah, we do plan to support overlapping IP addresses and things that traditionally VRFs did. So we do handle that use case.
Well, when you say you plan to, does that mean that you support it now? And
Yes, it's in development.
Is it?
The overlapping, just that use case is in development. Yeah.
Service providers are using Silver Peak, as far as I know. So when they deploy, they have multiple customers, and of course there will be overlapping spaces. What they do.
So when service providers are deploying Silver Peak for their end customers, then there's a SD-WAN fabric per customer.
Per customer.
Yeah, they're not going to have them all on one fabric, right? Because you wouldn't want, your voice applications for customer A talking to customer B, right? You need real segmentation there.
So single appliance, single pane of glass, and
Right.
I want to sell it to thousands of customers as a service provider.
Well, that's a different question. So then there's a solution called Orchestrator SP, which is a multi-tenant version of the Orchestrator that lets the service provider, and the SP there stands
You
for service
provided
provider,
Silver Peak.
Silver
Yes.
Peak, and that lets the service provider manage.
That's why I'm asking.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, good question.
Orchestrator SP.
SP.
That's right, yeah.
SP service provider, not Silver Peak in that case.
And I think it's looking a little bit different, right? Because so many things here, and now when you multiply it with maybe not thousands, but let's say 100, it would be really hard to manage each and every customer and their tenant.
Yeah.
Also.
Yeah, so there's a number of different additional features in the service provider version of Orchestrator. One of them is what we call a blueprint. So if you're a service provider, you could have a blueprint for your SMB customers, and maybe a blueprint for your retail customers, and a blueprint for, I don't know, your finance customers. And what that is a set of blueprinted orchestrators that already have predefined business intent overlays. So as a service provider, you might say, for retail, my blueprint has point of sale, HVAC, ERP. For finance, a financial customer, my point of sale application has, my overlays have an ATM network, the branch voice network. I don't know what else they may
Or
have.
customer can choose as well.
Well, so a service provider could set up these orchestrated blueprints, again, for specific verticals as an example. So then they go bring on a new retail customer, they deploy the retail blueprint, which has a bunch of business intent overlays already configured that match that segment in terms of how they want their apps to be defined. And the other thing I failed to mention earlier, but Anusha did pick up on it, is part of the answer to Phil's question, that I don't think we covered well, is that, go back to the enterprise use case now, out of the box, Orchestrator comes with a set of predefined business intent overlays and already millions of applications and many of those apps are already mapped to a set of default BIOs. So you're not starting from scratch, picking and choosing apps. You deploy it and you go, okay, I see the real-time network and I see that Silver Peak by default has put in 15 voice apps. I don't like number 15, I'm going to delete that or whatever I'm going to do. Question? Yeah.
With Silver Peak in the cloud, AWS or Azure, any of the hyperscalers, are we using the same orchestrator?
If
Or
Silver
no?
Peak is deployed in the cloud, would you use the same
Would
orchestrator?
it be the same or a different one? Well,
Yeah,
how
absolutely.
is
So
that
there's a
different?
couple of different questions there. So one is Silver Peak in the cloud could mean that as an end customer, I have got some applications running in AWS. And in that case, I want to turn up Edge Connect in AWS or Azure or GCP or whatever it may be. In that case, you have your orchestrator, and AWS or Azure or Google looks like another endpoint on your SD-WAN. So all your business intent overlays apply to that just as it would another branch or retail location. So that's one answer. The other way of thinking about Silver Peak in the cloud is where's my orchestrator hosted? So your orchestrator can be in your enterprise data center. It can be in the Silver Peak cloud. It can be in any public cloud infrastructure too.